We see our first signs, and already we feel like, oh, no more, make it stop. Why already? Primary season's here. We see those signs popping up at the street corners, and I feel like it's one of those disappointing reminders that we're about to endure something through November. And it feels like, unless you are a wonk, and there are some, don't get me wrong, there are certainly some people that they just love this. But it seems like not so many people are excited about going through the political process again. And how many times have you heard, I'll hear it on the morning news on TV. I tend to flip my TV on about 7:30, 8 o'clock. So I'll catch the end of some of the local shows, and then they flip to the nationals. So I go to the stations that still have the locals. And the local anchors, they'll say, oh, my gosh, it feels like we've been in campaign season for a year already.
A year?
Right, and we're only starting.
No, I feel like the fact that I lived through 2020 in Arizona, I feel like we're still there.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today still in the news? Becky Lynn just had it. Fake electors.
Yeah.
All this stuff that's going on. We can't get away from it.
You feel like you're bombarded?
No, I mean, you were graced with the fact that, when did you leave Arizona?
Which time? This is my third tour
The
of
most
duty.
recent tour of duty before this one.
We signed papers on the house January 2020.
So
I left fall of 19.
Yeah, for months, the results of the election were questioned. We watched people sit down at the convention center and count the ballots. Did you have to deal with all that?
Oh, yeah, because I still follow everybody on Twitter, and I was still doing some work here, right?
Yeah.
I was doing some work for KTAR at the time. So, yeah, I was still following all that, and Garrett Archer, and what you had, and everybody else,
So all of the ballots that had already been tabulated, we had to recount them.
Right. Cyber ninjas.
Clint Hickman allegedly feeding his ballots to chickens and then setting the chickens ablaze. Yeah, you laugh.
I'm not.
It was a story.
Horrible story.
It didn't happen.
I know, but it's such a horrible thought.
Yeah, the fake electors who wanted to make sure former President Trump got to stay president because they didn't like the fact that he lost a legitimate election to Biden. All this stuff.
You only say it's legitimate because you hate America.
And I was talking in our newsroom earlier today, too. I'm not convinced it's a left and right thing either. Yes, the right lost, so they lashed out. But if the left would have been the side that lost, I'm convinced they would have come up with something equally nutty.
I don't think so.
No.
No. And let me tell you, can I just...
I hope you're right.
For a moment, before I let you get to your next point here, I don't think so because... And for those of you who are Republicans, you're obviously angry with me. If you're a Democrat, then you're like, oh, of course we wouldn't do that. But the truth is they don't have a firebrand on the left like Trump. There's nobody on the left that could rally the support of the base well enough to even come close to getting away with those sorts of shenanigans.
Okay, but here in Arizona, it wasn't just Trump. In the last election, we got to deal with Kerry Lake.
He changed the culture.
We got to deal with Mark Fincham. We got to deal with Abe Hamadeh.
Yeah.
We got all these lesser thans who also did nutty, wacky stuff.
Yeah, I think Trump laid the groundwork 2020. Kerry Lake is the most Trump-like politician in America. And you can take that as a compliment or an insult, whichever you wish. But I think she followed that playbook better than anybody else ever could, and I think that opened the door for others.
Well, it's exhausting to me. I don't want to deal with it. I have no appetite for it. I want to put it off as long as I possibly can.
Yeah.
It's like you're in high school or college, and you've got that assignment at the start of the semester. the 10-page paper.
Yeah.
And it's based on a book that you have to read. And Chris, we all know what you think of books. Not a big fan. You throw them right in the garbage.
No. Good kindling.
Yeah. A month goes by, you're like, I'll start reading the book soon. Do you? Of course not. Who has time to read a book when you've got other tests to study for, parties to attend, sports to watch?
Yeah.
Another month goes by, more sports, more parties, more tests. You got to deal with all that. Ooh, look, that girl, she's pretty. I wonder if she'll go out with me.
No.
So you know my life, and I haven't even told you about it. You read a couple chapters, that felt pretty good.
I was going to say, at some point you read one or two chapters, and then you feel like you're getting into it, right? And they're like, we'll set it aside.
But that paper, gosh, it still hasn't happened. It's not nearly as fun as pursuing Michelle. By the way, I got shingles because I got stressed out over her.
Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah. That sense of dread, though, it's building. You've only got a month left. It's crunch time. It's easier to keep putting it off. A week to go.
Yeah.
Now you know you're in trouble. You've got 3 chapters read. The book's over 300 pages. Cliff's Notes. Let's do that. Is there a movie on this thing?
Right.
Let's watch that.
Yeah.
Oh, dang it. The teacher definitely knows you're going to watch the movie night before the suckers do. If only I'd started this 2 months ago.
Right.
Well, here goes nothing. What would happen if I triple spaced instead of double spaced?
Right.
And then
Up my font size to 14.
what if I quote a lot from the movie instead of actually coming up with original thoughts and bang, done?
It's just like Mel Gibson once said.
That's the election for me these days.
That was really good.
That's what it's.
Can we just applaud Joe for that?
Yeah.
Best monologue he's done yet.
We're going to get to this, like July 29th is going to get here.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to, oh my God, done.
Yeah.
And then November 5th, same kind of thing. I'll do a little bit of studying, but it just stresses me out.
I thought you liked reading all the pamphlets,
No, I
throughout the
told
whole
you
season.
I peruse. I do not cover to cover what do they call it? The election
Paraphernalia?
the election dissertation.
Oh.
Election
The manifesto?
pamphlet. What's that
It's
thing
called
called?
the election pamphlet.
Drudgery. That's what that thing is.
Oh, yeah.
I read through a little bit of it. I don't enjoy it. It's like the 10-page paper.
So do you think that we're fatigued simply because we've
went through it before and it hasn't ended. We're still stuck in this like evil time warp.
How much of that, which by the way, I agree with you, how much of that is our fault in media?
I don't like to make it about the media. It's definitely the fault of the cable newses.
Yeah.
Because they feel like, well, let's just bring up 2020 again.
But every time
you and I don't talk about this every dang day.
Every time Carrie Lake sneezes, we talk about it.
Not
Saturday
you
Night
and I,
Live?
but yes, the media
Yeah, you
does.
and I, because
Yeah.
that was one of the deals when I came here is I didn't want to talk too much about politics. They said it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is one of those things in fact, even today we saw headlines on the national news is all about the not guilty pleas by the fake electors.
Giuliani
in
and all the
Arizona,
others. Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean we're still at the headlines nationally again. So yeah, I think we're inundated with this. And I feel like if you want something that isn't politically related coverage, it's very difficult to find. You have to go almost to a specialty. Like if you don't want political coverage, you have to go to Variety, right? Or you have to go to ESPN. And even then, you're going to get some politician's take on what NIL means to somebody.
You've got to tune out and find more of your entertainment interests than your election interests. To your point, if you're a wonk, you can't get enough of it. But if you're not a wonk, but you kind of want to know what's going on, you've really just got to turn your brain off and turn more into the entertainment-y kind of things.
What if I'm Jewish and I want to know what's going on with the war in Israel? Right? And so I do want to follow up on that.
So you Google it and
So
you Google something very specific to learn about those results.
I guess so. I get like the Reuters or whatever. They do a good job of international coverage, right?
Or AP, yeah.
Sure, and I follow all that. AFP. I'm really big.
American French. Is it something French press?
Yeah, that's it. It's the French press. So I like my
like
news.
A panini?
I like my news like I like my coffee.
Okay.
So here's what I have to believe though is that there's enough interest or at least palace intrigue that keeps people clicking on certain links or listening or watching. And so all they have to do is mention Trump, click. Trump, click.
It's episodic too.
It is, but I'm with you. I have a feeling it's a small number of people doing a lot of clicking, not a large number of people clicking a few times.
Agreed.
That's the way I think that's shaking out right now.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.